Hello and welcome to a very important video on solving an 8-mark essay question on the topic of foreign exchange. The question is from winter 2018, variant 22, and it says discuss whether or not a fall in its foreign exchange rate will benefit an economy. So what do you need to know before solving this question is the concept of exchange rate, which is of course the value of a currency in terms of another currencies. Floating exchange rate, this is a mechanism of determining the value of a particular currency depending upon the forces of demand and supply. Appreciation and depreciation of a currency, impact of depreciation on exports, impact of depreciation on imports, the macroeconomic aims, balance of payments, which is basically record of all transactions between countries, current account, which is the part which measures the flow of income or outflow of income in a balance of payment, and of course the role of price elasticity of demand, which is crucial for solving this question. If you have a problem in any of the topics mentioned on the slide, I suggest very strongly to go back, revise, and then continue with the video. So the idea in brief is that the fall in exchange rate is depreciation. Depreciation makes exports more cheaper. And if exports are elastic, if there's price elasticity of demand is high, export revenue may rise because people are going to demand our exports more since they have become cheaper, which means aggregate demand could increase if net exports increase, and with an increase in aggregate demand there could be more growth, which could result in more employment. At the same time, depreciation makes imports more expensive, and now if imports are price elastic, they may fall, and the expenditure may fall, which means the current account deficit could reduce. Also, loans may become more expensive to pay because you would need more money now to pay the same amount of loan, because now the value of your currency has declined or decreased. So these are some of the impacts of a depreciation of a currency. Now let's look at the marking scheme very quickly. So, as you may be aware that the marking scheme for an 8-mark question is very simple. Analysis contains 4 marks, which is your AO2. So the analysis could be how the foreign exchange benefits in an economy. And in an 8-mark evaluation question, you have to write contrasting viewpoints, the other side of the picture, which is the evaluation, how the foreign exchange may not be able to benefit the economy after all. Please be careful that if you fail to write both sides of the argument, then you may get a maximum of 5 marks and you're going to gift 3 marks to the examiner. Well, before writing the actual answer, I am going to divide my answer into 2 parts: may benefit an economy and may not benefit an economy. And how I'm going to start is, fall in the currency or depreciation tends to make exports cheaper and imports more expensive. So I am writing an effect of the fall in foreign exchange. And what will this happen? This will lead to, this may benefit the economy if the export and imports are elastic. Now I have given a context, I've given a background, I've given a scenario how this may help. This may help if the exports and imports are price elastic. If they are elastic, that means demand for exports are going to increase, which this means that export revenue may increase as quantity demanded for exports may increase. Now you may have learned in your elasticity chapter that whenever a product is price elastic and we decrease its price, people are going to consume more of it. Why? Because the quantity demanded is going to increase by a larger percentage than a change in price. That's what makes a product elastic. So if the price of our exports are decreasing and our exports are elastic, it means that, like for example, if the exports are now cheaper and they're elastic, people are going to consume more. When people are going to consume more, our export revenue would increase, which means that current account deficit may decrease. Also, now I'm putting another impact which is not related to the previous impact. Also, a rise in net exports. If exports are increasing more than imports, net exports may increase aggregate demand. So for example, an increase in net exports is going to increase aggregate demand, resulting in higher output and increase in employment. So please remember that aggregate demand's formula is C plus I plus G plus net exports, or X minus M. So if net exports are increasing or exports are increasing more than imports, aggregate demand is going to shift right, or it is going to increase. Output or GDP is going to increase, and which means that firms may need to employ more labor in order to produce more goods and services. So this is the part where the fall in exchange rate is going to benefit an economy. Now let's very quickly look at the contrasting viewpoints, how it may not benefit an economy. However, now that I'll leave a line in the middle when I'm writing this answer, and I'm going to start with the next paragraph. However, a fall in the foreign exchange rate may not benefit an economy if the exports and imports are inelastic. Now I'm giving a context or a scenario when the foreign exchange rate may not be beneficial, when the import and exports are inelastic, which means that if exports are becoming cheaper, if export revenue may fall, because when exports are becoming cheaper and the demand does not increase, then your revenue is not going to increase, your revenue would fall. And if your export revenue is falling, your current account deficit may worsen, which is not going to help the country at all. Also, high prices of necessary imports such as raw materials may result in cost push inflation. Remember that a fall in exchange rate is going to make the imports more expensive. And now if those imports are inelastic, which means that you would have to import at any cost, let's say they are very necessary raw materials such as oil or chemicals, then what's going to happen is that it is going to result in higher import prices, which means the cost of production is going to increase, which means that there could be inflation, and this kind of inflation is cost push inflation. I am pretty confident that I would be able to earn the desired marks with whatever I have written, but even in the end, I would try to add another point. Even if exports become cheaper, the export revenue may not rise. And this is very simple. Like, just imagine, even if someone is offering you something cheap, you may not buy it. Why won't you buy it? You won't buy it if you know that it's a rotten product, it's a stinking, smelly product, it's a shitty product. So if the exports of a country may not rise even if they are cheap when they are of inferior quality. So if the exports are of inferior quality or are relatively unknown, people are not going to buy it even if they are available at a cheap price or at a cheap rate. So exports may not rise and it may not benefit an economy in such a circumstance. When you're looking at the marking, I think for the first point, I'm going to get 2 marks, then the context for 1 mark by writing whether it is elastic, and then explaining the impact, I would get 1 mark. So I am pretty confident that my first paragraph or the part where I'm writing the advantage would be able to help me in getting 4 marks. Similarly, I would be able to get 4 marks very easily for the contrasting viewpoints, and I have given the impact. So the words which are taken directly from the marking scheme are given in italics, so you would know what to write and what are the crucial words to gain more marks. The good news is that this file is available for download as well, so you can download in the PDF, and apart from seeing the video, you may use it and print it and consume it the way you want. Um, and of course, I hope it helps. So until next time, thank you.